Two teenage twin girls, just 17 years old, ventured into the rugged embrace of Mount Rainier with dreams of adventure dancing in their eyes, only to vanish without a trace, swallowed by the mountain's silent wilderness despite their careful planning. For 5 agonizing years, the towering peak kept its secrets, leaving a family shattered and a community desperate for answers, until a lone ranger stumbled upon something chilling beside a gnarled old tree, a discovery that would unravel a mystery no one saw coming. The crisp morning air of July 15, 2018, carried the scent of pine and earth as Mia and Lily Carter, identical twins with matching grins and a shared love for the outdoors, laced up their sturdy hiking boots and adjusted the straps of their backpacks. The sisters, both 17 and brimming with the fearless energy of youth, had spent months preparing for this trek, poring over maps and studying survival techniques with a dedication that bordered on obsession. Their parents, proud but cautious, had reluctantly agreed, trusting in the girls' meticulous nature and the fact that they'd grown up hiking these trails. Mia, the bolder of the two, carried a small journal filled with sketches of the flora they'd encounter, while Lily, the quieter sister, packed a camera to capture every moment. They set out from the Paradise Visitor Center, their plan a simple loop trail that would take them through alpine meadows and past breathtaking vistas, with an expected return by 6 p.m. The mountain loomed above them, its snow-capped peak a majestic sentinel under a sky so blue it hurt to look at. They were in their element, laughing as they posed for a selfie with Mount Rainier as their backdrop, their backpacks slung over their shoulders, a vibrant testament to their readiness. But as the hours ticked by and the sun began its descent, that vibrant energy faded into a void. By 7 p.m., the agreed return time had passed, and their parents, waiting anxiously at the trailhead, felt the first stirrings of unease. Mia and Lily were not the type to dawdle. They were disciplined, their every step calculated. 15 minutes late was a hiccup. An hour was a whisper of worry. By 9 p.m., with darkness cloaking the mountain, that whisper turned into a scream. Their father, Tom Carter, a man whose hands trembled as he dialed the park ranger station, recounted the details with a voice thick with dread. The girls, 17 experienced hikers, had left with enough water, food, and gear for a day trip. Their silver SUV sat untouched in the parking lot, a silent witness to their disappearance. The last message, a photo sent at 2:32 p.m., showed the twins beaming beside a cascading waterfall, the text reading, "Paradise is real. Love you." It was the last sign of life from the mountain. At the Longmire Ranger Station, the report landed on the desk of Ranger Elena Ortiz, a woman with 25 years of experience etched into her weathered face. She'd seen lost tourists and reckless climbers, but the vanishing of 2 skilled teenagers sent a chill down her spine. This wasn't a case of inexperience. It suggested something sudden, something fierce. The search began at dawn, a frantic ballet of helicopters slicing through the sky and ground teams threading through dense forests, their bright jackets swallowed by the greenery within moments. The mountain, with its steep slopes and hidden crevasses, fought back, its trails twisting into deceptive mazes. Shouts for help were muffled by the thick canopy, and the girls' familiarity with the terrain only deepened the mystery. How could they vanish so completely? Days turned into weeks, the search swelling with volunteers from neighboring counties, combing every inch of the park. They found no footprints, no scraps of fabric, no sign of the twins' passage. The absence of evidence was a haunting riddle, a silence that gnawed at Ranger Ortiz. Mia and Lily would have left traces, wrappers, a dropped water bottle, something. Yet the mountain offered nothing but its indifference. By the 10th day, a faint hope emerged when a volunteer spotted a glint of metal near a stream, but it was just an old fishing lure, a cruel tease in a sea of despair. The official search scaled back after a month, the command post dismantled, the media trucks rolling away. In their wake, a new narrative took root. Whispers of a deliberate disappearance, a theory that the twins, tired of small-town life, had staged their vanishing to start anew. It was a story that gutted their mother, Sarah Carter, who knew her girls' hearts, their unbreakable bond with family. She refused to believe it, pouring her savings into private investigators, driving to the park on weekends to walk the trails herself, her eyes scanning for any hint of her daughters. The case grew cold, filed away in a dusty archive while the Carters lived with a grief that never softened, a wound that festered with every unanswered question. 5 years slipped by, each anniversary a quiet torment for Sarah, the mountain a constant reminder of her loss. The twins became a local legend, their smiling faces on missing posters fading under the weight of time. Then, on August 3, 2023, a shift came. Ranger Ortiz, now 50 and still patrolling the trails, was on a routine check in a remote section of the park, far from any marked path. The air was thick with the hum of summer insects as she approached a towering tree, its bark rough and ancient. Leaning against its trunk were 2 backpacks, weathered but unmistakable, and beside them, a pair of hiking boots caked in mud. The sight hit her like a punch to the gut. A red water bottle peeked out of one pack, identical to the one in the twins' last photo. Her hands shook as she radioed for backup, the cold realization settling in that this was no random gear left behind. The backpacks and boots were a lifeline, a thread to pull that might finally unravel the mystery of Mia and Lily Carter. The discovery ignited a frenzy, the Park Service and local law enforcement converging on the site. The gear was bagged as evidence, rushed to the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab in Tacoma, where forensic analyst Dr. Marcus Hale began a meticulous examination. The packs, though faded, bore the girls' initials embroidered on the straps, MC and LC, a detail Sarah had mentioned in her endless pleas for help. The boots, scuffed and worn, matched the style the twins wore in their final selfie. But the real shock came from the interior. Tucked into a side pocket was a small, waterlogged journal, its pages swollen but legible. Mia's sketches of wildflowers and hurried notes filled the pages. The last entry dated July 15, 2018, mid-afternoon. Lost the trail. Fog's thick, heading downhill. Love you, Mom. The words were a dagger, a final cry from a girl who'd fought to survive. Dr. Hale's team analyzed the gear, finding soil samples and pollen that pointed to a specific ridge miles from their intended route. The packs had been sheltered, protected from the elements for years, suggesting they'd been stashed or carried to this spot. The flood of questions was relentless. How had they gotten here? Who or what had placed them by that tree? The investigation pivoted, tracing the ridge back through the mountain's unforgiving terrain, a landscape of cliffs and dense undergrowth that seemed designed to hide secrets. Ranger Ortiz led a small elite team, their eyes peeled for caves or overhangs where the twins might have sought refuge. The ridge was a labyrinth, each step a battle against nature's defenses. On the third day, a faint glint caught Ortiz's eye, a metal clasp half buried in the dirt near a shallow cave. Digging carefully, they unearthed a silver bracelet, engraved with Mia Lily Forever, a gift from their father. The cave was dry, its walls scarred by time, and inside they found more. Tattered clothing, a broken camera lens, and a single boot print preserved in the soil. The evidence painted a grim picture. The twins had been here, injured perhaps, and someone else had been too. The bracelet and journal were rushed for DNA analysis, confirming the worst and the best. The remains were the girls, but the scene suggested they hadn't died alone. The boot print, too large for their feet, hinted at another presence, a shadow in their final hours. The case exploded into a manhunt, the park's quiet trails now a stage for a desperate search for answers. Ortiz's mind raced back to a poacher she'd encountered years ago, a man named Jared Voss, known for haunting these remote areas. His file showed a string of minor infractions, but nothing tied him to the twins, yet. Investigators dug into his past, finding he'd left the area in late 2018, a move that now seemed suspiciously timed. The mountain, once a place of beauty, had become a witness to a darker story, and the backpacks by the tree were the key to unlocking it. Sarah Carter, her hope reignited, stood by as the investigation unfolded, her heart pounding with every new clue. The public, too, watched with bated breath. Don't scroll past this. Subscribe now before you miss the chilling truth that could save someone else's loved ones. The stakes were higher than ever, and the mountain's silence was about to break. Wait for the next revelation. Hit that subscribe button, or you might never know what happened next in this heart-wrenching saga. As the team closed in, the weight of 5 lost years pressed down, demanding justice for Mia and Lily, urging you to join the search by subscribing today. Don't let their story fade into oblivion. The discovery of Mia and Lily's backpacks and boots beside that ancient tree sent a ripple of urgency through the investigation, transforming a cold case into a pulsating hunt for truth. Ranger Elena Ortiz stood over the evidence, her weathered hands tracing the worn straps of the packs, the mud-caked boots a silent testament to the twins' final struggle. The journal's last words: lost the trail, fog's thick, heading downhill. Love you, Mom, echoed in her mind, a desperate plea from girls who'd fought to find their way. Dr. Marcus Hale's forensic team worked tirelessly, analyzing every fiber, every grain of soil. The pollen samples matched a rare alpine flower found only on the ridge where the cave lay, confirming the twins had veered far from their planned route. The cave itself, shallow but dry, held more clues. Tattered remnants of their clothing clung to the rocky walls, and the broken camera lens suggested a fall or a struggle. The boot print, larger and deeper than the girls' small frames could produce, was a glaring anomaly, its imprint preserved as if time had paused to mark the intruder's presence. Ortiz's memory flashed to Jared Voss, the poacher with a shadow over his past. His file, pulled from the archives, revealed a man who knew Mount Rainier's hidden corners, a loner who'd vanished from the area months after the twins' disappearance. The timing gnawed at her, late 2018, just as the search faltered. Investigators fanned out, digging into Voss's life, finding a rented cabin he'd abandoned, its floors scarred with muddy tracks that matched the cave's soil. The pieces were aligning, but the picture was still fractured. The team pushed deeper into the ridge, the terrain a brutal maze of cliffs and tangled underbrush. Helicopters buzzed overhead, their searchlights cutting through the dusk, while ground crews hacked through vegetation, their breaths heavy with determination. On the 5th day, a faint cry broke the silence. A volunteer stumbled upon a rusted knife buried near a stream, its handle wrapped in faded blue tape, a signature Voss had been known to use. The find electrified the team, pointing to a campsite he'd once used, now overgrown but marked by the knife's presence. Ortiz led the charge to the site, a clearing where charred logs and a tattered tarp hinted at a hasty departure. Among the debris they found a scrap of fabric, purple, like Mia's shirt in the last photo. The evidence was mounting, a trail of guilt leading back to Voss, yet the twins' fate remained elusive. Sarah Carter arrived at the site, her eyes red from sleepless nights, clutching the journal as if it were her daughter's last embrace. She pleaded with Ortiz, "Find them, please. Tell me what happened." The ranger's heart ached, her resolve hardening. The investigation shifted to a manhunt, Voss's last known location in Idaho becoming the next target. Detectives worked with local authorities, tracking his movements through sparse cash transactions and sightings of a man matching his description. The public's attention surged. Don't turn away now. Subscribe before this mystery consumes another family's peace. The knife and fabric were rushed to the lab, DNA tests underway to link Voss to the scene. Ortiz replayed the cave's evidence in her mind. The bracelet, the boot print, the journal's final note. It suggested the twins had survived initially, perhaps injured, and someone had been there, watching, waiting. The mountain's silence was breaking, but at what cost? The fear of what they might uncover drove the team forward. Hit that subscribe button, or you'll miss the moment justice finds Mia and Lily. Sarah's hope flickered, urging you to join her vigil. Subscribe now, or their story might vanish forever. The rusted knife with its faded blue tape became the linchpin, a grim beacon guiding Ranger Elena Ortiz and her team deeper into the shadowed heart of Mount Rainier's secrets. The clearing where it was found, once Voss's makeshift camp, whispered of his presence. Charred logs smoldered with the memory of past fires, and the tattered tarp flapped weakly in the breeze, its edges frayed by time. The purple fabric scrap, a haunting echo of Mia's shirt, clung to a thorn bush, its color dulled but unmistakable. Dr. Marcus Hale's lab confirmed the fabric matched the twins' DNA, a heartbreaking confirmation that they'd been here, their journey intersecting with Voss's dark path. The soil samples from the knife handle bore traces of the same alpine pollen, tying it to the cave and the ridge, a web of evidence tightening around the poacher. Ortiz's mind raced, piecing together a narrative. Voss, a man who knew these wilds like the back of his hand, had crossed paths with the twins, perhaps drawn by their cries or their gear. The larger boot print in the cave suggested he'd been close, too close, and the girl's survival gear left by the tree hinted at a deliberate act. The team pressed on, the mountain's steep slopes and hidden ravines testing their resolve. Helicopters circled overhead, their searchlights piercing the dense canopy, while ground crews navigated treacherous cliffs, their boots slipping on moss-slick rocks. The air grew thick with tension, each step a gamble against nature's indifference. On the 7th day, a breakthrough came. A faint trail of disturbed earth led to a narrow crevice, its entrance choked with overgrown ferns. Inside, the team found a stash, a worn sleeping bag, a half-empty canteen, and a notebook scribbled with coordinates and dates, Voss's handwriting a jagged confession. The dates aligned with late July 2018, days after the twins vanished, marking this as his hideout. But the real shock was a Polaroid tucked inside the notebook. A grainy image of Mia and Lily, their faces pale and fearful, sitting against a rock wall, their hands bound with rope. The photo, time-stamped July 17, 2018, was a gut punch, proof they'd survived at least 2 days after going missing. Ortiz's hands trembled as she bagged the evidence, the weight of it pressing on her chest. The investigation surged into overdrive, the Polaroid fueling a manhunt that stretched across state lines. Detectives in Idaho tracked Voss to a remote cabin, its windows boarded and yard overgrown, a place abandoned in haste. Neighbors recalled a reclusive man who'd kept to himself, occasionally seen with a young girl, a detail that sent a shiver through the team. Could one of the twins have survived? The thought was a fragile hope, tempered by the cave's grim findings. Sarah Carter, her face etched with exhaustion, joined Ortiz at the site, clutching the journal and bracelet, as if they could will her daughters back. "They were alive," she whispered, staring at the Polaroid. "What happened to them?" Ortiz had no answer, but the fire in her eyes promised a relentless pursuit. The lab raced to analyze the sleeping bag and canteen, finding traces of the twins' DNA mingled with Voss's, a chilling confirmation of their captivity. The notebook's coordinates pointed to a series of campsites, each a potential crime scene, and the team fanned out, their search now a race against time to uncover the full story. The public's gaze intensified. Don't look away. Subscribe now before this nightmare claims another family's hope. The mountain, once a place of beauty, had become a graveyard of secrets, and the backpacks by the tree were the first clue in a trail of horror. Ortiz recalled Voss's file: petty thefts, poaching, a man with a temper and a knack for disappearing. His sudden move to Idaho in 2018, coupled with the Polaroid, painted a picture of guilt, a man fleeing with more than just his life. The team uncovered old reports of a campfire ban violation near the ridge, Voss's name linked to it, and a witness who'd seen him with a heavy pack days after the twins' disappearance. The evidence was a mosaic, each piece a shard of the twins' lost days. As the investigation deepened, Ortiz led a night operation to the final coordinate, a rocky outcrop overlooking a valley. There, beneath the overhang, they found a shallow grave, its soil freshly disturbed by animals. The forensic team worked under floodlights, unearthing skeletal remains, 2 small frames, their bones fragile but identifiable by dental records as Mia and Lily. The sight was a silent scream, a confirmation of loss that shattered Sarah's fragile hope. Yet the grave held more. A rusted shackle, its chain broken, suggesting the girls had fought to escape. The horror was palpable. Hit that subscribe button, or you'll miss the justice these brave souls deserve. The mountain had kept its silence too long, and now it demanded answers. Subscribe today, or their story might slip into the void forever. Ortiz vowed to bring Voss to justice, her determination a beacon in the darkness, urging you to join the fight. Subscribe now. Don't let their memory fade. The shallow grave beneath the rocky outcrop marked the end of Mia and Lily Carter's earthly journey, a somber revelation that hung heavy in the air as Ranger Elena Ortiz stood vigil over the unearthed remains. The floodlights cast long shadows across the valley, illuminating the fragile bones of the 17-year-old twins, their small frames a stark contrast to the towering mountain that had claimed them. The rusted shackle, its broken chain a testament to their desperate struggle, lay beside them, a silent witness to their final fight for freedom. Dr. Marcus Hale's team worked with reverent precision, cataloging every detail. The dental records confirmed their identities, a heartbreaking closure for Sarah Carter, who collapsed into Ortiz's arms, her sobs echoing through the night. The forensic analysis revealed more. The bones bore signs of malnourishment and minor fractures, suggesting weeks of captivity before their deaths, likely from exposure or injury after escaping Voss's grasp. The sleeping bag and canteen from his hideout, now linked to the grave, held traces of their DNA, sealing the poacher's involvement in this tragedy. Ortiz's jaw tightened as she stared at the shackle, her mind racing with the image of the Polaroid, Mia and Lily, bound and terrified, their youthful faces etched with fear. The notebook's coordinates had led here, a deliberate burial site, and the broken chain hinted at a moment of rebellion, a fleeting hope crushed by the mountain's unforgiving embrace. The investigation pivoted to a full-scale manhunt, Voss's trail now a burning fuse. Detectives in Idaho intensified their search, raiding his abandoned cabin and uncovering a cache of poaching tools, a blood-stained tarp, and a journal entry dated August 1, 2018. Found 2 girls. Problem solved. The words were a cold confession, a chilling admission of intent that fueled Ortiz's resolve. The public's outrage grew. Don't scroll past this, subscribe now before another predator escapes justice and tears another family apart. The mountain, once a sanctuary, had become a stage for horror, and the backpacks by the tree were the first act in this unfolding drama. Ortiz recalled a tip from a park volunteer, a hiker who'd seen Voss near the ridge in late July 2018, carrying a heavy load and moving with purpose. The timeline fit. The twins' last message at 2:32 p.m. on July 15th, the fog that disoriented them, and Voss's opportunistic strike. The team retraced his steps, finding a secondary campsite with a fire pit and discarded rope fragments, the fibers matching the Polaroid's bindings. The evidence was a noose tightening around Voss, his every move a thread in the tapestry of the twins' demise. Sarah, her grief a raw wound, demanded answers, her voice breaking as she held the journal. "Why didn't they find them sooner?" she asked, her eyes pleading with Ortiz. The ranger had no comfort to offer, only a promise to unearth the truth. The lab rushed tests on the tarp, finding blood consistent with the twins' profiles, a final nail in Voss's coffin. The investigation spread to Idaho, where a retired ranger recalled Voss bragging about a big score in 2018, his words now a sinister clue. Local police tracked him to a rundown trailer park, his last known address, but he'd fled again, leaving behind a trail of unpaid bills and a neighbor's vague memory of a man with a scar across his cheek. Ortiz led a night operation to the trailer, the team moving silently through the dark. Inside, they found a locked box containing cash, a poaching permit from 2017, and a faded photo of Voss with a young girl, unidentified, but the age fit a child born around 2018. The implication was a gut punch. Had he taken a trophy? A child from his crimes? The thought sickened Ortiz. Hit that subscribe button, or you'll miss the moment this monster is brought to light and justice is served. The mountain's secrets were spilling out, each clue a step closer to Voss, urging you to join the hunt. Subscribe today or their story might be buried forever. The team analyzed the photo's background, identifying a gas station in Boise, Idaho, and set up a stakeout. Days turned into a tense vigil, the air thick with anticipation. On August 10, 2023, a scarred man matching Voss's description pulled into the lot, his truck loaded with gear. Ortiz signaled the arrest team, her heart pounding as they moved in. Voss resisted, his scarred face contorted with rage, but the evidence, knife, tarp, Polaroid, was overwhelming. In custody, he clammed up, his silence a wall Ortiz vowed to break. Interrogations began, the team pressing him with the grave, the shackle, the photo. Finally, under the weight of the Polaroid, he cracked, his voice a low growl. "They saw me poaching," he admitted. "I couldn't let them talk. Took them to the cave, but they got loose. I buried them when they didn't make it." The confession was a dagger, confirming he'd held them captive, their escape attempt ending in death. But the girl in the photo remained a mystery. Had he kept a child, a warped legacy of his crimes? Ortiz pushed harder, uncovering a lead on a foster home in Boise where a girl with no records had been placed in 2019. DNA tests were ordered, a fragile hope for Sarah. Don't let this slip away. Subscribe now or you might miss the chance to see a family reunited or a predator fully exposed. The mountain had given up its dead, but its shadows still held one last secret, driving you to stay. Subscribe today, or the truth might vanish into the wild. The confession from Jared Voss reverberated through the interrogation room, a raw and guttural admission that painted the final strokes of Mia and Lily Carter's tragic end. Ranger Elena Ortiz sat across from him, her steely gaze locked on his scarred face, the weight of his words sinking into her bones. "They saw me poaching," he rasped, his voice cracking under the strain of years of evasion. "I couldn't let them talk. Took them to the cave, but they got loose. I buried them when they didn't make it." The simplicity of his statement belied the horror it carried. The 17-year-old twins, lost in the fog, had stumbled into his illegal world, and his fear of exposure had sealed their fate. Ortiz's hands clenched into fists beneath the table, the image of the broken shackle and the Polaroid flashing in her mind. The lab's findings, malnourishment, fractures, DNA on the tarp, aligned with his story, a chilling confirmation that Mia and Lily had endured weeks of captivity before their escape attempt ended in death. Yet the mystery of the girl in the photo lingered, a shadow that refused to fade. Voss's silence on her identity only deepened the enigma, his eyes darting away as Ortiz pressed him. "Who's the girl?" she demanded, slamming the photo onto the table. He shrugged, a flicker of something. Guilt? Fear? Crossing his face before he clammed up again, leaving the team to chase the lead to Boise. Sarah Carter, her face a mask of grief and fragile hope, stood outside the station, clutching the journal and bracelet as if they could anchor her to her daughters. The confession brought closure, but opened a new wound. Had one of the twins survived, only to be lost again? Ortiz vowed to find out, her resolve a beacon for Sarah and the team. The investigation shifted to the foster home lead, a nondescript house on the outskirts of Boise, where a girl, placed there in 2019 with no traceable past, had grown up in silence. Social workers described her as withdrawn, her dark hair and quiet demeanor a vague echo of the twins' features in their last photo. DNA samples were collected, rushed to the lab alongside Voss's, the wait an agonizing stretch of hours. The public's eyes were glued to the unfolding drama. Don't turn away. Subscribe now before this tale of survival and loss slips through your fingers and leaves another family in despair. The mountain had surrendered its dead, but its secrets still whispered through the trees, and the backpacks by the ancient trunk were the key to unlocking them all. Ortiz led a team back to the ridge, scouring the cave and gravesite for any missed clues. Beneath the overhang, they found a small, weathered pouch hidden in a crevice, its contents a treasure trove. Mia's sketchbook, its pages smeared but legible, and a lock of hair tied with a ribbon, Lily's favorite blue one. The sketches chronicled their ordeal, Foggy trails, a shadowy figure, a cave wall, ending with a frantic note. He's coming back. Run. The hair, tested in the lab, matched Lily's DNA, a heartbreaking relic of her final days. The pouch suggested the girls had hidden it, a desperate attempt to leave a message, and the broken shackle indicated they'd nearly succeeded in escaping before Voss recaptured them. The team's search expanded, finding a secondary trail of disturbed earth leading to a stream, where they uncovered a rusted canteen with Voss's fingerprints, its contents long evaporated, but its presence a link to his movements. The evidence painted a grimmer picture. Voss had tracked them after their escape, his rage driving him to bury them when they succumbed to the elements. Back in Boise, the DNA results arrived on August 12, 2023, a moment that froze time. The girl, now 9 years old and known as Emma, was a 99.9% match to Lily Carter's profile. The revelation was a thunderclap. Lily had survived, spirited away by Voss after Mia's death, her infancy spent in his care before he abandoned her to the foster system. Sarah's cry of joy and pain echoed through the station as she embraced Ortiz, the years of loss colliding with the miracle of reunion. But the joy was tempered by complexity. Emma knew nothing of her true identity, her world shaped by Voss's lies and the foster home's quiet routine. Ortiz coordinated with child psychologists, preparing for a delicate reunion, while Voss faced charges of kidnapping, murder, and poaching, his confession sealing his fate. The public's heart swelled. Hit that subscribe button, or you'll miss the emotional climax of this mountain mystery and the justice these girls deserve. The mountain had given up its secrets, but the journey was far from over, urging you to stay. Subscribe today, or Lily's rediscovery might fade into silence. Sarah met Emma on August 15, 2023, in a supervised room, the girl's wide eyes meeting her mother's tear-streaked face. Emma clung to her foster worker, her confusion palpable, but a flicker of recognition sparked as Sarah whispered, "I'm your mom, Lily." The reunion was a mosaic of love and loss, Mia's absence a shadow over their embrace. Ortiz stood watch, her heart heavy yet lifted, vowing to ensure Emma's transition. The investigation closed with Voss's arrest, his trial pending, but the mountain's legacy lingered. Don't let this story end. Subscribe now.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.